right, so let's get started with the manga section here.
It's an interesting week. It's tough to decide which one I want to go through first.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think I do want to do One Piece first this week.
Okay.
So One Piece is a very simple chapter. I mean, you know, we get Doflamingo calling his brother, and interestingly enough, we everyone expected Law to speak to him, so that way Coruscant can keep his cover as being silent, but instead he communicates to his brother over the Dendamushi by tapping on it.
Right.
I thought that was an interesting twist.
I like that.
Yeah. And then, of course, he informs him that he found out about the Opi Opi no Mi.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he finds out that the Marines are going to buy it off some pirates on a particular island, and he asks that they meet up prior to the sale on a different island that's close by. Now, of course, he rejoices and says to Law, "Oh my God, you're saved!" And then he immediately goes to call Sengoku and inform him about this. Now, this is our first confirmation of Virgo's treachery, if you will, because as we know, as we find out from Sengoku, it was supposed to be a secret transaction.
Uh huh.
So now this is further shows more proof about, Virgo providing them with information.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, he provides Sengoku with the rendezvous point, so that way they can ambush Doflamingo. But all the while, Coruscant decides that he's going to have to go against both sides' wishes and steal the fruit before the deal goes down.
Mm-hmm.
Because if he does, the government and Doflamingo won't know what hit them, and by the time the day of the deal happens, when the supposed ambush of Doflamingo happens, he hopes to be long gone with Law.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's where some of the issues are going to come up. One, if Doflamingo gets a hold of the devil fruit, he knows that if he lets Doflamingo get a hold of the devil fruit, he'll make Coruscant eat the devil fruit to heal Law, and wants to watch him eat it. Now, as we all know, you can't eat. Only Blackbeard has been known to be able to have two devil fruits and live.
Uh huh.
So, now the next thing that happens is his Law collapses and he's taken a turn for the worse. So, 3 weeks before this deal even goes down. Now, we skip ahead to about, 3 days before the deal is supposed to go down, and he makes his attempt to steal the fruit. Now, first we see, him trying to show off his powers, or to prove to Law how cool his powers are, saying, "Oh, look, I can shoot off a gun and break a vase without anybody hearing anything, and I can even fart and no one would hear it." And then Law just points out, it doesn't matter if you can't hear the fart, you can still smell it.
Uh-huh.
Which I thought was kind of funny, because, I can imagine how young Law would talk.
Yeah.
And his mannerisms. And of course, having heard what the Law voice actor of Japan sounds like, I'm pretty sure they're going to do pretty well, young Law.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so, obviously, coincidentally, the Opi Opi no Mi is in the shape of a heart.
Yep.
Oh, isn't that cute? Now, we see these pirates, and even though he blows up half their base because of his devil fruit powers, no one can hear it, and he just cuts out the lights and just goes in, steals the fruit. Now he runs out all happily, saying, "Oh yeah, I can save Law now," and he trips. Clumsy. He just couldn't get rid of the clumsiness.
Yep.
Couldn't hold out. Just a little longer.
Yep. As we'll find out, this week was full of tripping in manga, but that's besides the point.
Oh yeah. I didn't actually think about that. Alright, anyway, so then it seems like he's about to get captured by all these pirates, but we'll have to wait and see that in 2 weeks, because according to the online, we're taking a break next week.
Yep.
Which sucks, because of course Oda decides to leave us on a cliffhanger like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's one thing to leave us on, like, oh, Doflamingo's call. Like, last week he ended off with Doflamingo call. That's not as bad as this week's ending, where it's like, oh my god, I'm gonna know what happens. Now, there are some interesting things that people have been saying about this chapter. For one, okay, people think that this time around, we may actually get to see what happens when someone eats 2 devil fruits. Because people think that Rosadante is going to end up eating it. Now, this makes people question, okay, now that there's a possibility we might actually get to see what happens to a devil fruit user when they eat another devil fruit, it begs the question, is it immediate death? Or is it like it's a slow, like, you die after eating the devil fruit, you have maybe like 10 minutes to live before you die, and it's a slow, painful death. Nobody knows.
Mm-hmm.
It's just known that you will die. And some characters have even said that you supposedly explode.
Right.
So then some people are saying, well, okay, Doflamingo is gonna force him to eat the devil fruit, and then he's going to, even though he's slowly dying, if it turns out that you die slowly, then he'll live just long enough to heal Law before dying, and that supposedly a fruit's going to be nearby that's going to be where the Opiopi no Mi's power is going to be immediately transferred to, and that Law is going to take it and eat it. Now, the other theory is that, Rocinante gets away from these people and he gives Law the devil fruit to eat. People are curious. The only time we've ever seen Law use his powers on himself, other than the whole, room teleport thing, was when we saw how he took his own heart out. In the Punk Hazard.
Uh-huh.
Or prior to Punk Hazard, but we saw that he actually had done it in the past. Question is that based on what we know he had to do to the kids on Punk Hazard, would he be able to do that to himself and still be able to control everything that's happening?
Probably.
Now? Yes. When he first gets his devil fruit? I don't know. He doesn't know. At this point, he doesn't know what it can do. He just knows that it can help him.
Yeah. Kind of seems instinctive, though. Like, a lot of devil fruit powers seem to naturally come to instinct.
Yeah. I'm sure he might be able to know. He might know what to do with it right away, but who knows? Mm-hmm. But at this point, he doesn't have any swords to use to cut himself up. And it's presumed that you need that in order to cut them up.
Right.
So, who knows? Now, the other one is, when I heard about this when I saw the King of Lightning review, were 2 out of this world, probably never going to happen theories. Yeah, you heard about them? About how, when you first meet the pirates, the leader, captain, asks for more booze, and this one sliver of a panel, you see a guy who's all beat up, and it seemingly looks like he has, you can't see his face, you only see, the back, his ears, and the back of his hair, from the side, and it's, a little bit of shoulder, and he's all beaten up and bloody. Now, the first theory, that was wait, what? I was where did that come from? Was saying that it's Drake. Now that one, to me, makes no sense, because Drake was supposed to have been a Marine before he became a pirate.
Uh-huh, exactly.
So, and it's presumed that he, grew up in a Marine, or at least from what I could tell, it sounds like he grew up in like a Marine type of family.
Uh-huh.
So I highly doubt he would have this be him. But the even crazier theory that it's a theory I want to believe because out of the two theories, I want this second one to be the truth. But it's not going to happen because it's even more far-fetched. People saying that this Dory guy that he called, which is the guy's supposedly the guy's name, is people are thinking is Sanji's dad, since this is all taking place in the North Blue.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, what?
That really is stupid.
But then again, we don't know anything about Sanji's life in the North Blue.
Yeah, that's like saying that Alvida is Luffy's mother because she was in the East Blue.
No. Well, first of all, as we all, that is always immediately removed because of the sheer fact that Luffy's mom, if she was alive, and for some reason, first of all, I highly doubt she'd be a pirate. She'd probably be a revolutionary if she was still alive. Or just be, because now it's interesting because if you look back and think about it, we don't know who Luffy's mother is or who his grandmother is.
Croc.
What?
Croc.
Croc is not his mother or his grandmother. Because it's already been proven that if he was the grandmother or mother of Luffy, he wouldn't have tried to kill him. Regardless of the fact, even if friggin' Ivanko changed him into a man, it's still the motherly instinct wouldn't, and the motherly love of her son would not go away.
It's mostly reflex, though, by the way. It's like, sociology usually suggests that most motherly, like,
even if she would say, but
instincts,
she would recognize her son, even if she had forgotten about him.
Mm-hmm.
And she would have had, not only would she would have immediately noticed him, recognized him, and would have been like, I can't do this. So no.
Oh no, some mothers are pretty wicked. And like I said,
but
instinct is definitely a misquoted thing, because it's most motherly, like, quote-unquote instinct is actually more or less developed, not
yes, but
not
at the same
internal.
time, you gotta think, if there was not, it doesn't matter how little time she spent as his mother before she became the man known as Crocodile, she would still have first of all, would have recognized him and probably would have shown signs of it during their fight.
Maybe.
Now, whether or not she would have tried to kill him, yes. In retrospect, yes, she still might have wanted to kill him as Crocodile, but there would have been some signs of it. And there wasn't no signs of it. Like, the whole fact that Crocodile might have been a woman only came about because of that whole thing in Impel Down with Ivanko knowing a secret about him.
Huh?
Now, in the end, that could end up being friggin' true. Who the hell knows? Nobody knows. I mean, like I said, I'm pretty sure I've said in a previous podcast that is something that Oda is most likely going to do one or two things with this. One, he's not going to ever tell us, and it's going to be the ultimate troll because everyone's going to want to know about it, but he's never going to say it. Or, in his true fashion, this information is going to be like, he did this to foreshadow future events,
right?
Because he loves to foreshadow, and somehow that's because it's going to be revealed when Crocodile, he meets up with Crocodile again in the New World.
Mm-hmm.
So, who knows? But anyway, the fact that this guy, Dory, could possibly be Sanji's father is just way out there.
Yeah.
I mean, so first of all, for the majority of the first of all, out of all the people, almost not like if you look at it, more often than not, in terms of the Straw Hats, we don't know their parentage.
Right.
Because like Brook, his past was he was a 30-year-old pirate or a 40-year-old pirate. You don't know. You don't. It's not like they sit there and he goes back to his childhood and talks about his parents. No. All right. Luffy, we know his father and grandfather, but not his mother or grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
Zoro, he just pops out of nowhere.
Frankie was an orphan.
Frankie was an orphan. We know that his parents were pirates, but it's just they were insignificant. Usopp, his mother died, and we know that his father's Yasopp, and of course, them two are going to face off against each other at Ragnar. Raftel, sorry. And then, let's see. Robin, we don't know the father, but we know the mother.
Mm-hmm.
Chopper is an animal, so...
It's Croc.
His parents were animals. It's not a crocodile.
Croc is Robin's
That's
mother.
even less likely.
Croc is Robin's father
likely.
and Luffy's mother at the same time.
And Nami, her parents died, or presumed to have died in that fight between pirates and marines. So we don't even know who, and there's no way we're ever going to find that out. Unless her mother is secretly still alive and shows up in the New World somewhere.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe Crocodile is Nami's mother. They never actually saw each other.
No.
Never know.
Fuck it. Croc is every Straw Hat's parent.
It's funny because everyone...
That's my theory.
Yes, every Straw Hat's parent we haven't seen yet is secretly Crocodile. Like, he pulled the same shit as that Scissorhand guy that worked closely with Ibanko, who, in every scene was a different gender.
Uh-huh.
Maybe that was Crocodile in the day. That's how we ended up producing all the Straw Hats as children.
Uh-huh.
Which, when you think about it, is really fucked up. Especially since Sanji seriously wants Nami.
He goes back in time and creates Brook. Yes.
Who knows? We don't know truly how... We don't know the full extent of Ivanko's powers. For all we know, Ivanko can use hormones to reduce someone's age.
Uh-huh.
So Crocodile could be like a friggin' Ichiro level, 1,000 years old.
Right.
No. No, not that level. Because that means he would have lived during the Void Century, which means he'd be a lot... That means he would have had to have known someone with the hormone for ever. He would have to know that person. So anyway, this chapter, I believe, it was a very good it was a good chapter. Not much really happened. It was very simple, but it's an amazing setup chapter for the next flashback.
Yeah.
Now, at this point, it's hard to say whether we're going to only have one more chapter of flashback or two more before the flashback's finished. I'm not sure. Because we don't know how much more is left. Because now that the Opie Opie no Mi's in the picture, okay, is this next chapter, Doflamingo's going to show up, and the Marine's going to show up, and then Law's going to get healed, and then he's going to get the powers, and then Rosinante is going to get killed. So it's like, we don't know what's the deal, but we do know, however, that at best, I would say 2 more chapters.
Yeah.
1 or 2 more chapters left of flashback. Now, of course, next week we're gonna not get a chapter, and then we're gonna return. So I would say, let's see, since we're not gonna get one this week, That means we're gonna the flashback this on this Thursday 30th. We're probably gonna say get the I would say by the 13th, either the 6th or the 13th, when those chapters come out. So those are the two most likely. Those when the chapter set. So I'd say the week before Thanksgiving or the week of Thanksgiving is probably around the time when we're gonna get back to the present.
Right.
Which means once we get, because as I said, once we get this flashback over with, Doflamingo's ass is getting kicked.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, I'm gonna say this was a great chapter.
Yeah, great chapter, definitely.
All right, this is where I think it gets difficult. Now, the only reason why I'm gonna pick Fairy Tail first is because of the week ending or week beginning.
Right.
If it didn't have such a weak beginning, I would have probably saved it for last.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the weak beginning, I think I want to review it first. Or next.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Alright. We're gonna obviously I'm gonna save the ending for the last thing for us to talk about. Now, the beginning was kind of stupid because it was basically, or should I say the beginning third of the chapter, was basically recapping what everyone else was doing while the whole Urza Kaguya fight was going on. Since we're still in that timeline of before the clock hit 0.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the stupid fight with the bunny girls, finally you see finish up, and then Lucy comes in and informs everybody of mostly of what has happened. Mm-hmm. Obviously, skimping out on the parts that involve her. She has a brief remembrance of how, she just lost Aquarius' key.
Yep.
Because the thing that people always seem to forget is that the key is destroyed, but Aquarius isn't destroyed. She just no longer can be summoned to the human world for a long time.
Right.
Because it is presumed that at some point the key will be remade, but then Lucy will have to go out and find it again if she wants to get Aquarius back.
Mm-hmm.
Now she's still wearing the outfit that she got, the Aquarius outfit she got. Now whether or not she still has the Aquarius power boost, we don't know.
Right.
It's presumed that it's gone, but I don't think so because, honestly, especially with this chapter, we realize that the Fairy Tail members have to get much, much stronger. And there's not much Lucy else can do. I mean, post-time skip, she got strong. In order to become stronger for the Grand Magic Games, she became strong enough to use 2 spirits at once. And then use that, spell. And then, as we saw in this Tartarus arc, she barely was able to summon 3 spirits, and that really drained her. So, I mean, yes, the next power-up might be her summoning 3 spirits at the same time, but it is also presumed that almost nobody can do it, which would kind of make sense why she would be given that ability, since, she's one of the main characters.
Right.
But I still think she should still keep the Aquarius powers, since she won't have to have Aquarius again for the rest of the series.
Mm-hmm.
I still that way Aquarius can still be, a part of the series. Since it's probably going to be one of those things that she's going to do in, the obscure things, one of the obscure things she's going to do when the series is over is, I'm going to go search for Aquarius' new golden key. Now, and then Wendy shows up and everyone's shocked. Oh my god, she cut her hair!
Uh-huh.
So, and then she talks about that there's a massive amount of faces. Everyone's like, oh my god, everyone thought, making it seem like everybody only thought there was only one face. But apparently that wasn't the case. And they have to do something about it. Warren can't help with Wendy's plan because his range is only 5 kilometers. So, they're like, what to do now? Now, interestingly enough, we see Gray, he finds something or someone, and immediately recognizes it, but we don't see what it is, and he's like, what the hell is this doing here?
Uh-huh.
So that's a curious thing. Now, so the second of the three main parts of this story, of this this chapter, the fight, the three Dragon Slayers versus Mark Gears. I just don't know how to properly describe this, but they are SOL.
Yo, let's talk about how cool Mark Gear
Like,
is right now, and why he is the only one at this point who is holding up this entire manga from falling.
well, no, duh, because all the other Tartarus members, even though they, no sooner that, first of all, that each member of Tartarus got their behinds kicked before they even showed any ounce of power, and then once they showed power, they got beat by Fairy Tail members. So it's like, but Mark Gears took on a combined assault from the Twin Dragons and Natsu in his Lightning Flame Dragon mode, all while sitting on his throne. Like, oh my god.
Yeah.
This tells you one thing. If Mark Gears is that powerful, how strong is End, who's above him in power?
Who knows?
And then that brings up, and since an End is weaker than Zeref,
yeah,
presumably. So it's like, this is why my further. Some people think that based on this chapter, it makes it make it seem like Fairy Tail's in its last arc, but based on the power scale, no way in hell are they even close. They can't. They just can't be in the final arc because there's no way they can. Natsu. The only people who can fight at this point are Natsu, Sting, Rogue, and that's it. And Igneel. They're the only ones standing. Makarov's is still pretty hurt, so he can't really fight, and all the other ones are hurt. Now, there's that possibility that when Gajeel and them go to help heal Loxus and them, that they might show up, but they're not going to make much of a difference at this point. I mean, what are they... And, I mean, I'm still trying to hold out maybe that we might have Mark Gears up against all 7 Dragon Slayers.
Yeah.
Not going to happen, but I can dream, can't I?
Sure.
Anyway, because I mean, at this point, I think Mark Gears might even be able to beat all 7 Dragon Slayers at once.
Yeah.
I mean, like all of them doing their breath attacks at once, and this is also including the fact that Natsu powers up into Flame Dragon mode, and that Gajeel has his Steel Shadow Dragon mode, and even all of that combined is still not enough to make him go full on serious. Like, who knows how powerful this Mark Gears is? But honestly, hands down, Fairy Tail's most badass villain.
Yeah.
Even honestly, at this point, Mark Gears is even more badass than Acnologia.
Oh yeah.
Because it just at this point, and here's the other funny thing is that Mark Gears was when Acnologia first showed up, was sweating.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes you think, okay. Now, that means Acnologia has to be more powerful than Mark Gears. But is Acnologia stronger than End? We don't know. But the fact that is that they're not even in the same league. No one in Fairy Tail. Even when you combine them all together with all their friendship BS, I still don't think they're going to be able to beat Mark Gears. Which then begs the question, how are they going to get out of this?
No idea.
No one knows. But honestly, the thing that makes me give this chapter I'm gonna give it a rating that I don't think that it's a rating I'm going to give because I don't know what to give it, really. And the rating I'm going to give it is WTF. And it's because of that ending. The reveal that Lumen Histori, the thing that's been kept under Fairy Tail's Hall all these decades, is Mavis. frozen in crystal.
Yep, Makarov's private peeking spot. Yeah.
Well, so this is like, what? So, Lumine's story is, like, unleashing that is going to, what is that, freeing her from the crystal, and she's going to unleash her massive power? Like, oh my, I mean, and then this brings up a whole bunch of other questions, like, okay, what about that grave at Tenro Island? You know, and whether she's, like, it just, nobody knows. Like, what it could be.
Right.
No one knows what the hell. And this makes it all the more important for you Fairy Tail fans to be reading Fairy Tail Zero.
Yes.
Because now, we don't know. Now this makes people are going to think that we're going to get the explanation of this in Fairy Tail Zero.
I think so.
Now we might get obviously we'll have to get some form of an explanation about it in the main storyline.
Yep.
But we're going to get the full explanation in Fairy Tail Zero.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Now, what will Mavis do? We don't know. Will she... Now, what I'm hoping she doesn't do... Now, first things first, we think that she's most likely going to be able to stop Face. You know, because since we didn't see what happened when the timer hit 0 on Face, I'm presuming we're going to do the whole classic action cliche where they stop it at the last second, where, you know, it hit 0 and they just, before it activated, even though it already hit 0, something stopped it.
Uh-huh.
That's what I think's going to happen. Or she's going to restore everyone's magic after it's all taken or whatnot, but
right.
The point is that Face is going to be rendered useless. Face's effect, whether activated or not, it's going to be rendered useless because of Mavis' appearance.
Most likely.
Now, what happens after that, I don't know. What I don't hope she does is that she goes up and just waves her hand, and every member of Fairy Tail is 10 billion times stronger. I don't want that to happen, because then honestly, that would fall under, you know,
Deus Ex Machina.
You know, like, asshole. Like, literally, that would be like, okay, I don't know how to figure out how to I made these super powerful villains, but instead of getting my guys up to that power level, I'm just gonna try and pull a fast one on you and say, hey, look, this magical being shows up, imbues them with her power, and they all get strong enough to defeat the enemies. Mm-hmm. Like, no. I don't think so. She may, however, ward them off, so that way, thus effectively ending the arc, and they have to go back into hiding for a while, giving our heroes time to get stronger. Because, you know, it's the fact that this reveal happened and that she's going to be released, or supposedly released from the crystal as a part of this, makes people believe that it's the final arc. But I don't think so, because like I said, the power, we have met what seems to be the endgame villains, but the protagonists are nowhere near it. In fact, I think even the Urza effect couldn't beat Mark Gears right now. And that's saying a lot. Yes, I am making that claim.
Don't say
that.
That.
Even if Urza was not, like, Urza never loses a fight. Ever. She might tie a fight on occasion, but she never loses a fight. I highly doubt she could beat Mark Gears. Because, yes, she's supposed to be much stronger than Natsu. It's just mind-boggling as to how strong Mark Gears is. There's no way that Urza can make up that gap.
Look,
there's just no way.
You could put him and
because think about it. She barely beat Kaguya, whatever her name is, and whatever her name is. They barely beat her. She barely beat her, and this villain that she barely beat, her power is dwarfed, eclipsed, whatever big word you want to use. Her power is eclipsed by Mark Gear's power. So, there is no way that Urza would have been able to beat Mark Gears. Just no way.
Yeah, but you could put Margear, you could put Zeref, you could put Acnologia, and in the same room, have them all tag team against Erza. She would still find a way to win.
No, she wouldn't. Because, remember, she would... First of all, if it wasn't for the Exceeds finding Pure Heart, or whatever his name is, his heart, per se, that prevented him from dying, and basically giving him unlimited magic, they would have lost, even though Erza was there. So don't sit there and tell me that, no. Just no. Erza wasn't going to win it. Wouldn't win. I'm giving it... So, now, here's the other thing. If somehow the release of Mavis causes, the face to be stopped, and for the bad guys to be warded off for a while, this begs the question: since Lumen Histori is Mavis encased in crystal, if they release her, will she be able to remain released and help them get ready? Like, remain in the story as a physical being, as opposed to a spirit that can only be seen by people who have the fairy tale emblem on them.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case, that honestly is what I'm actually hoping for. That, like, that because Mavis was I loved Mavis as a character. So I hope she does get to be in the story more, because I've been loving Fairy Tail Zero.
Yeah, it's been pretty good so far.
I'm just hate how it's only slightly... It's about around the same length, if not maybe slightly longer, than a normal weekly chapter, even though it's only released monthly.
Right.
That pisses me off, because the monthly... I've read a couple of monthlies, not like maybe one or two, and their chapters are longer, because they're monthly.
Yeah.
Like... Soul Eater was monthly, and their chapters ranged from like 50 to 60 pages a chapter.
Yeah, that's usually the typical
length of a monthly chapter.
Mm-hmm.
So it just seems odd that he would do this. But then again, he's also working on Fairy Tail every week, so I guess we can cut him a little slack.
Yeah.
And he's also doing the monthly Ice Trail.
Right.
So I guess we can cut him a little slack. But, alright, so in the end, this chapter was just all over the place, from good to bad to oh my god. So I just don't know what to say other than WTF.
Yeah.
So my rating is WTF.
For me, I have two things to say about the chapter in general, and they're both about Margear, of course. One, tell me that face does not look like Madara's face.
Great face.
Yeah. And
Ow.
two, him sitting in the throne reminded me so much of Kingdom Hearts.
Wait, did you send me something?
Yeah.
Because all it says here is a group that you created a group chat conversation with AZX.
What?
It doesn't say a picture or anything.
Scroll down.
You can't scroll down.
You can't? Fuck.
Try sending it again.
Okay. Anyway, the second thing was that him sitting on the throne and fighting reminded me of Kingdom Hearts 2. The whole Xemnas fight. Sora, are you sure you can trust Riku? Ah!
Oh, okay.
You know,
there you go. Final to find it. Oh my god, that, like... Hold on, I gotta get a close-up on this.
Dude, isn't that uncanny?
That is... No, that isn't uncanny. That is Madara's right face.
It is. I was shocked when I saw it, and I'm like, holy crap, that's... Dude, Mashima, copy pasta. Please. Stop it.
Well, that wouldn't be the first time we saw inter-manga references.
Yeah.
Between the popular mangas.
Yeah. But yeah, those are the two things that I had to say about the chapter, like, mainly.
So what's your rating?
Riku, Are you sure you're not jealous of Sora? I thought it was a good chapter, mostly because the middle and the end was interesting enough to catch my attention. So, I'd say it's a good chapter, actually, for me.
Okay. So, I think that's all we have to say about Fairy Tail.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all. We took like 20 minutes. Alright, so we have two more left. We had Toriko and Naruto. Both very good chapters. Which we want to start with?
Toriko. Because, I don't know, because there's a good chance we're going to go on a really long tangent with Naruto.
Maybe.
So, not that we're not going to go on a tangent with Toriko, but...
True.
Who knows?
So then Toriko, 298.
Woo!
Almost to 300.
Yep, almost at 300.
Toriko.
Oh my god! It was just... First of all, let's just say this. This guy, he has such great world-building skills.
Yes.
But why in the hell would you name an important character Kaka? What the hell?
I don't know.
Was he thinking? Was he like friggin' smoking like the extra strong like friggin' Japanese weed that they called Hiroshima or something? Like what?
He was on some of that Pineapple Express.
No, you know what? He probably was smoking a Jeffrey.
What?
Do you know what that is?
No.
Oh my! Then you've never. So that means you've never seen Get Him to the Greek.
No.
All right. Well, just later after this is over, Google like Get Him to the Greek Jeffrey, and you'll find out what I mean.
Okay, fair enough.
But anyway, so like all you need to know is that this guy must have been smoking something when he was coming up with this, Nitro's name.
Right.
Because that's just stupid. Why would you name someone feces? Or another word for feces?
Who knows?
Anyway, so besides that, there was, a lot more important stuff that happened. Like, we found out that she is also a taste hermit, just like Chi-Chi was. And that there's a third one named Gigi.
Uh-huh.
Which you're probably going to see on one of the other continents. Maybe. Now, what I thought was odd, or one of the surprising things about this chapter, was when we find out that this Kaka lady, I guess, because everyone's just thinking that she's most likely a female Nitro. This one was the Nitro that Komatsu accidentally released at the Gourmet Pyramid.
I don't think it's the same one, but I think she was released in a different, rune. That's my opinion.
No, but she said that she was.
In the same room? I don't recall that.
Because he only released one.
I can't remember off the top of my
head. I know, because that's why it confuses everyone, because it was so long ago.
Yeah, maybe I have to look back at that.
Everyone
said the same thing.
Yeah, he did. He's like, because he thinks that the Nitro, because the Nitro attacked, so they thought they killed the Nitro.
Which
or at least that's what he thought. But nobody remembers, because this is on some friggin' Oda level foreshadowing. But unfortunately, it wasn't as memorable.
Right.
No one he tried to pull something on that scale and it just didn't work because nobody remembered such a minute detail as to whether or not, and even if it was the same Nitro, how come it took 2 years or whatever the amount of time from that time to the time they meet this Nitro again for her to finally say something? Because if it was in fact the same Nitro, why is it that the first time around she couldn't talk?
Mm-hmm.
And was so was rampaging. Like,
Yeah,
doesn't make any sense.
here's what Zebra says in the chapter. He says, "What I remember is there was one other Nitro that escaped the pyramid." Now, as we know, Zebra has echolocation, so he knows like that
So
there are
yeah,
other things
I
within
mean,
the pyramid. You know.
that's why that's why it's so confusing because nobody remembers that shit.
Right.
Yet, in One Piece, people remembered the whole stupid thing with Noland supposedly seeing small people.
Right.
People can remember that, but nobody can remember friggin' how many Nitro were in the Gourmet Pyramid.
Right. You know what I found really interesting about this chapter? Well, in fact, like the whole thing about Nitro in general that was revealed in this chapter was when everybody thought it was odd that Chi-Chi was speaking, when in fact we now find out that the previous ones didn't speak because they all had their throats crushed. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now, what is also interesting is that it was stated that the red Nitro were slaves to blue Nitro.
Right.
Now, it is also believed by the fandom that there are other species of Nitro.
Probably.
And that's probably one of those other species is where the taste hermits came from and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we got a little more information about the civilization that existed on this island prior to the apes' rule. And it was it was weird. Friggin' Toriko, they went to the dining hall. He took one sniff, and he could see this entire flashback just by sniffing. And the one guy in the flashback offers Toriko a drink.
Yeah, don't let Toriko anywhere near Kishi. Because Kishi will overuse... He would overuse Toriko's sense of smell flashback every 5 chapters.
He wouldn't need to. Friggin' Toriko would take one sniff, and he could tell us the whole story. He can go to Odin. He can friggin' sniff one of the poneglyphs and tell you the entire history of the Flying Century.
Yeah, Kishimoto would have him, sniff the air. Oh, guess what? It appears that Madara and Hashirama once ate, I don't know, bento here before they were enemies. Bullshit like that, you know. But anyway, Toriko's sense of smell is definitely impressive. It's interesting how...
And it's only friggin' Area 7.
Yeah.
Imagine how much stronger his sense of smell is going to be. He's going to sniff and know that there's an alien farting 20 billion light years away.
Right.
Jesus! Of course, we also find out that the 3 taste hermits was the ones who created these giant stone tablets that are actually recipes on how to prepare certain ingredients, or prepare/obtain certain ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
And what makes it even more surprising is that she knows a way on how to get pear that not even the blue Nitro know how to do.
Right.
And that's all well and good until we learn the truth.
Yeah.
I remember last week, and I know this because last week, I think almost every other sentence in that review of Toriko chapter, I probably ended the sentence with "damn." Almost every chance I could.
Right.
I said, "Damn." That's not even a good enough word to describe what we learned in this chapter about more information about this island. I mean, it was bad enough that at the end of last chapter we found out that pear... Wait, was that in this episode?
This one.
This one. Alright, sorry. Anyway, I'll get to that later. In order to obtain pear, they have to go face Bambina. Now, as we find out in the end of the chapter, that's because pear is a part of Bambina's body. So they can't avoid confronting him So that right in and of itself is like, I mean, we knew that they were going to face off because that's kind of like the style is that they'll have to go through each, 8 king in order to obtain the ingredient.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that the ingredient is a part of this 8 king's body is insane.
Uh-huh.
Now, some people are theorizing that it might be something similar to the Mellow Cola, where they're going to have to fight Bambina in a certain way for him to produce it. Like it might be his tears, or his blood, or his sweat, or something.
Right, because it is a liquid. It's a soup,
So, now, there's some other interesting theories, but we'll get back to that. Now, we thought, based on the power scale that was set in the last chapter, that we knew Bambino was just overly OP.
Yeah.
But this chapter makes him dwarf our previous expectations of his power. He lives on a mountain beyond this Birth Cry or whatever tree. Birth Cry tree, I think it's called. Or First Cry tree. And this mountain is called 100 feet mountain or something like that?
Yeah.
Because at the bottom of the mountain is 10 times normal Earth's gravity. And by the time you get to the top, it's 100 times gravity. We're friggin' gonna get some DBZ training.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Like, I can see them traveling from the top to the bottom in the week, because they have only a week, because of they only have enough man-made organs to keep Komatsu alive for another week. So, just like with Goku spending 6 days trying to master 100 times gravity, they're going to spend 6 days getting to the top of the mountain and they're going to be a lot stronger by the time they get to the top, because they're going to need to if they want to fight Bambina.
Right.
Because that's going to be a fight. It's not going to just be a talk no ninjutsu.
Yeah, no.
No talk ninjutsu. It's going to be a fight. Anyway, so we also learned about in the past how it was supposedly the monkeys who struck first and came up with this rebellion. But we don't know the true cause of the fall, because right before he was about to tell us the fall of the civilization's main cause, Komatsu takes a turn for the worse.
Uh-huh.
Now they stabilize him, and then we get back to the information. Now, that's when we find out the mountain. But just when you thought 100 times fighting Bambina, one of the, believed to probably be the second strongest, the fact that he is already dwarfs Heracles' power. We know that he dwarfs Heracles' power. But on top of that, Pear is a part of his body, and he rules this continent of extremely powerful apes. If you didn't add, he lives on top of a mountain where at the top it's 100 times the normal West gravity. If you didn't think that made him OP enough, there's no oxygen on the mountain, period. Now, that first part, if you weren't calm when you were reading this, you might have forgot that air, the atmosphere, the air that exists in the atmosphere, isn't just oxygen. So, at first glance, when I first read this too, I was like, oh my god, there's no oxygen? I thought it was just like a vacuum, like when Heracles creates, when he breathes in. But it's not a vacuum. It's just lacking oxygen. Which, thankfully, they can survive since they just ate air.
Mm-hmm.
But it turns that theory of them spending 6 days to get to the top into a couple of hours. Because, as we remember, air allows them to, I think, what was it, 200 hours or something? I forget what the exact stats were.
I don't know.
I think I'm gonna... But anyway, the stats, it was just, Coco mentioned that there were these stats, basically gave these stats as to what Toriko, what people got, how, I forget, it was a certain number of hours. Anyway, but thankfully, because they ate air, they'll be able to survive long enough, hopefully, without air, because since they can now breathe, not have to breathe for a certain amount of time thanks to air, they'll be able to survive long enough to, you know, eat, or not to eat, but to be able to face him. And they have to last long enough to be even able to beat him. Because it's presumed that they're going to have to beat him in order to do this.
Yeah, I don't see how it's gonna happen, but
Even in a 4-on-1 fight, I still don't think that's possible.
we'll see what Mitsutoshi's got for us.
Yeah. Here, I just pulled up the well, let's see. It looks, this from the Manga Panda translation. Coco says you could spend dozens of hours in the sea, or spend a few days in a place where there's no oxygen. Just after eating air, you'd probably be fine without breathing for a considerable period of time. Now, since he just says, spend a few days, but that's not, since it's not specified. I mean, I guess we could still say you can spend maybe a week or two without oxygen, but we don't know.
Right.
Specifically. So, I mean, so that just still leaves open the possibility that they're going to spend several days traversing the mountains, since even though they're powerful now, I don't think they're strong enough to survive 100 times gravity yet.
Uh-huh.
Or I'm not 100% sure they could. Because, I mean, since they haven't been dealing with intense gravity yet, their bodies shouldn't be prepared for it.
You know what would be interesting and pretty funny? If they just said, fuck this, we're destroying the mountain.
No, they're not going to be able to, because the mountain is gigantic.
I know. So is... Don't forget. You remember how big Heracles was? Don't forget Toriko's...
Heracles is... That mountain is bigger than Heracles.
I don't know about that, dude.
Uh-huh.
Like, if you looked at, like, even air, I think... I'm trying to think of how... He obstructed the skyline much worse than the mountain did. And
we don't know. We haven't gotten a close up. Like, we've seen, like, a general idea of how big it is, but we don't know how big it is compared to the Four Heavenly Kings.
Personally, I don't think the mountain is honestly that much bigger, if at all, than Heracles, like, at least tall. And then we saw, like, Toriko's, like, attack. You remember when he drove everything off? Was much bigger than Heracles, that attack. It was like where he shot it into the ground, and then we saw like the area of effect that it had, and the circumference of it was much larger than Heracles. It was insane.
But if it's a mountain that is consistently under 100 G's of pressure from the top and 10 G's of pressure from the bottom, that has to be some pretty thick rock.
Yeah, it's dense.
And even that, I should say dense rock.
Yeah.
But also, you have to consider the fact that if they were to even attempt to try and destroy it from the bottom, that they would have to do so in 10 G's of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So that will weaken it, because they won't be able to, because they'll be fighting. That'll be that extra pressure, making it more difficult for them to fight.
Right. So,
just the sheer fact that they're going to have to battle Bambina, who dwarfs Heracles' power in 100 times gravity, all the while being in 100 times gravity, is just going to make them so strong. And they don't even have to beat him for them to get so insanely strong from this fight.
Right.
And then, I mean, this chapter alone was so amazing. And then you got the whole, and then you have the theory behind it all, as to what actually happened in the past. With the whole, did you hear the theory about how Bambina wasn't the original ruler of the island when the monkeys arose, and he beat the person that was there?
No, but...
And then, and then took Pear from him, that person, and Pear became a part of his body.
No.
Like there's this whole theory that Pear becomes the part of the body of the person who ruled the island.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of weird, especially when you bring up the whole theory that that obtaining it might be similar to that of Mela Cola.
Right.
Because if it's a part of his body and it's a liquid, I would presume it'd be one of two. The most likely thing is that it's either blood or sweat or
Piss.
tears or something. I mean, I can't imagine on the top of his head is a friggin' pool of soup.
It's his piss.
I think that could be his cum.
Fuck.
Yeah,
you gotta prepare him a certain way. Imp Mugen Kugi on his dick.
Oh my!
Oh my god.
No. No, it has to do twin Mugen because it's to get it from both sides.
Meanwhile, you gotta get fucking Queen wrapped around.
No, Queen's long enough. For the no, she's not. Well, no, she can't because she's not big enough. She is. It's presumed that Bambina is big, or much bigger than Heracles.
Though we don't
That's what
know.
it's being led on to believe.
Bambina might be very small in comparison.
He might be smaller, which might make it. That's why it makes it interesting. We don't know. Mm-hmm. But if he is around the same size or bigger, there's no friggin' Queen would be the size of one of his friggin' sperm. Anyway, that's besides the point. The fact is that the fight against Bambina is going to be insane.
Yeah.
This whole arc is going to be insane. So I'm giving this a rating of amazing, and I just can't wait to see what he does next.
Yeah, this chapter was great. I thought I really enjoy the lore, especially a lot of clarification.
Chapter, ever since this arc started, each chapter has blown my mind.
Yeah. Ever since the Gourmet World started, this whole, everything's been awesome in terms of Toriko. It's been consistent. It's just been constantly blowing our minds, and I really have to hand it to Mitsutoshi for keeping this quality even after such an amazing arc such as the festival, because usually people are one and done with an amazing arc like that, but he's managed to keep it up, even though in between it was okay, but then he picked it back up, thankfully.
Yeah, some series, they have that big arc in the earlier parts, middle of the series, and then they spend the rest of the series trying to recreate that magic with other storylines, but they can never do it.
Right.
Or they have this really good storyline in towards the beginning or in the middle, and then they go to this really low point for a while before they get up to stuff that good again. Yeah. But this is just almost it's picking off right where it left off. It was the post time skip started off slightly slow.
Yeah. But
the moment they left for the Gourmet World, it's just been going higher and higher and showing no signs of coming down.
Right. Which is awesome. It really is.
Of course, there's probably going to be a slight dip after this arc because, if they just keep going up and up and up, they're friggin' gonna, he's just gonna blow up. Honestly, I think after this arc's over, they're most likely gonna slow it down a little. The intensity's not gonna be as big right off the bat. It's still gonna be intense, but it can't be this intense every chapter for the rest of the series.
Right.
Because there's no way he could, he'll just, his mind will explode trying to come up with ways to improve, to make every chapter more mind-blowing and awesome than the last.
Right.
It's just inevitable. Plus, since it's presumed, since after this arc, it's presumed that Komatsu's going to be okay, they're not going to be in a rush.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so that's my 2 cents on the chapter.
Same.
So, you know what time it is.
Time for Naruto Sasuke.
Alright. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Because this chapter is what many people are saying is the chapter they've been waiting for since the beginning of the series. Hand to hand, like fist-to-cup fight between Naruto and Sasuke. Like, it started out with the collision of their 2 attacks that they launched at the end of the last chapter, and then after that they're like, oh shit, we're out of chakra, so now we're gonna have to go fist-to-cups. You know, bam, bam, bam. Like, this is the shit.
Yeah.
Like, this fight, like, once it got to the point, once they started fighting fisticuffs, I was just like, yep, best fight in Naruto.
We're back to part 1, all over again.
Part 1 was a lot of good fights. But I also enjoyed a decent amount of the fights in part 2. But this fight is the best, because it blended a lot of the good aspects, or at least a lot of the things that I felt were good about the fights of part 2, and combined that with everything that people loved of the fights of part 1.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It was just, especially that whole panel where it's just like a lot of smaller panels of the various impacts that they were making on each other.
Right.
Like, it was just amazing. Now, when I initially saw that little weird-ass break where we saw Sakura waking up and Kakashi, you know, that scene, I was like, what's the point? Why is it in there? I was like, it didn't make any sense to me. Then we went back to the fight, and it's presumed that this fist-cuff fight has been going on for hours.
Right.
Because it looks like the sun's going down. So the entire time Naruto's birthday has been going on, he's been fighting for his life to save the world.
Right.
I almost, like, friggin', what is he get? This almost, pretty much, in my mind, this pretty much confirms that he's basically saying Naruto is Jesus. Friggin', like, come on. Fighting to save the world on his birthday, like, come on. Freaking Jesus Christ. I'm telling you. This confirms he is going to use his god powers to create human life and actually create the female Naruto that from his sexy jutsu.
Right.
That's going to be his wife.
Yep.
Like, anyway, then that ending where Tsukubi's like, I got chakra for ya, and then pulls a Minato and doesn't connect. It gets intercepted by Sasuke.
Yeah.
And they're sharing the same body. How can you... That's like friggin' trying to pass the pen, like a pen, from your right hand to your left, or friggin'... I don't know, it's like if you get, like, say, you know, you're eating chocolate or something, you get chocolate on your one finger. It's like trying to pass the chocolate stain from one finger to another. How do you intercept that? It's like, or even better comparison. That's like trying to intercept an electrical signal that's going from one nerve cell to another cell.
Right.
How the hell do you intercept that?
Create a path to OP.
It's just friggin'... But Sasuke finds a way to do it. Like, he finds a way to do it. And now he's about... Naruto, who's on his hands and knees, is about to be Chidori'd by Sasuke. Mm-hmm. Now, from this, the setup in this chapter, for what's going to happen in the next chapter, and all the information we know about the movie, 2 theories about how this is going to be resolved comes to mind. And I believe this is the 2 prominent... Like, I'm not necessarily sure if these are the 2 prominent theories across the internet, but these are the two theories that I prominently think are how it's going to be resolved. One was the first one I came up with was the one I came up with on my own. The second one was was a theory brought to me by the manga reviewers that I watch on YouTube. Now, the first thing I thought was going to happen when I saw this ending was, shit. The reason why they showed us Sakura getting up is because she's going to get in the middle of it and get killed or even just seriously wounded by Sasuke, allowing for Naruto to come, get around and hit, beat Sasuke. Like, it seems like he's setting up for that, but I just don't want that to happen. Like, please don't. And then there's the other theory that I think is more likely to happen, or I want to happen, and would make more sense based off everything we already know. Now, have you seen Naruto's new design? I'm assuming for the Naruto the Last, right?
Yes. Are you talking about the catching the Chidori and getting severely?
Yes, catching the Chidori theory. People think that now. First, when people saw Naruto's new design for the movie and saw his right hand wrapped up, they thought he was covering up his sun sign. But now that this is happening, we people think that his hand is still, even though it's presumed to be a couple years later, still seriously injured from, or very scarred from catching Sasuke's Chidori.
Right.
So some people now at first, if you weren't really paying attention, you might think that Naruto was just, down, but he's on all fours. So he could still technically pull his hand, lift his right hand up and block it.
Right.
And then pull some friggin', part 1 shit when he, during the Tsunade arc, and friggin' summon a shadow clone out of nowhere and create a Rasengan, and then Rasengan Sasuke like he did Kabuto.
He doesn't need it anymore. He can do it one-handed now.
He can?
Yeah, he did it in this chapter.
No, he didn't.
Yeah. When he tripped, he did it one-handed.
We don't know that.
Yeah.
I guess that's... I'm glad because...
We knew he could do it.
Or maybe it wasn't necessarily sure because, it's still possible, since they still had a little bit of chakra at that point, it still was possible that he could have summoned the Shadow Clone and created it, since that was the standard at this point. That's what people are going to assume. But the other reason why I would actually like the idea that now, yes, the page in question shows him doing it, but I think if he were to catch the Chidori and then use his left hand to create the Rasengan,
right,
that would, I guess, further cement, or at least permanently cement him as being able to do it with one hand.
Right.
I'm still kind of skeptical, but if he does that, catches the Chidori with one hand and then, creates the Rasengan with the other hand, then I would probably fully believe... that would make a full believer out of me. But at this point, I still am a little skeptical. Honestly, in my opinion, he should have been able to do one-handed Rasengan a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I thought he would have been able to do that after the time skip.
Right.
But no, he couldn't. And he he could have also pulled the whole, and you can't, at this point, since he's so low in chakra, you can't claim that he's using the tailed beast chakra cloak in order as his extra arms.
Right.
Since when he first gained the Nine Tails chakra and had that mock QB mode, he was able to create chakra arms that could be his extra arms, as opposed to shadow clones. Hence, why he didn't need to use shadow clones to create Rasengan, Rasen Shuriken.
Right.
Now, what makes this chapter so amazing is that first of all, we only have 2 more chapters left, people.
Yep.
2 more chapters.
Maybe 3 if we get a double chapter.
Yeah, maybe 3 if we get a double chapter. I'm hoping, but there is one thing that I can say without a doubt, 100% confident, can't be wrong, and that is 798 is the end of the fight.
Yes.
It is not just because I believe that they were going to save the last chapter or the last 2 chapters if it's a double chapter as the, finishing it. I mean, I believe that. But the reason why I can say this next chapter is the end of the fight without a doubt is because of how the ending of this chapter ended.
Yeah.
They're out of chakra. They've been fighting for hours trying to, in a fist-cuff fight. And after hours of fighting, the Kyuubi was able to amass a little bit of chakra, but it was stolen by Sasuke to become the Chidori. So, it's just, there's nothing left. They can't just suddenly get, no. The fight's going to end in the next chapter.
Yeah.
And see, now it is currently, we are recording this on Tuesday. That means we are within 2 days of finding out how this fight's going to end. And it's going to be insane.
Oh, yeah.
And the question now is, since we know the next chapter is going to end the fight, is it going to end in the first half of the chapter, or is that going to be how the chapter ends?
Yeah, it's a good question.
I'm hoping that it ends in the first half of the chapter.
Right.
That way we can at least begin the ending.
Right.
Because even if the final chapter is a double chapter, I still don't think. We already know it's not going to be. We already know we're not going to have enough time to close everything out that we want to.
Right.
But I would still at least want, if we have the double chapter, the last chapter being a double chapter, and then, maybe at least half, or maybe even slightly more, 3/4 of the next chapter being closing, because the next chapter, the other thing that is most likely a definite is, not only is it the fight going to end, but it's probably also going to be the chapter where Infinite Tsukuyomi is released.
Oh, yeah.
So, those 2 things together might be what they plan on doing for the next chapter.
Right.
And then have, this last chapter, which, again, might be a double chapter, be all the aftermath of everything.
Right.
Everyone recovering, back at the village, and we learn what's going to happen. We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know how this is going down, but we're almost done. And it's just, I'm gritting my teeth, trying to say, I just want to know.
Uh-huh. Just want to know how Naruto's gonna win, right?
We want to know how Naruto's gonna win, because obviously he can't kill Sasuke before releasing the Infinite Tsukuyomi, but they're not going. But either way, he's still not gonna kill him because he still has feelings, friendship feelings, not freaking gay feelings like everyone hopes he does for him.
He does.
No, anyway, so it's gonna be these next 2 chapters, or 3 chapters if the last one's a double chapter, are going to be insane. They're going to be on a whole new level.
Yeah.
Now, honestly, when we look back on this series, it's going to be very difficult, because the ending is going to be, honestly, it's going to be, no matter how good he's going to write it, it's still going to be a subpar ending because of the fact of how little time he gave the series to actually complete everything.
Right.
And the fact that he's going to answer certain questions in a canon movie.
Uh-huh.
That's going to take place years later, that is supposed to start a new Naruto project.
Right.
Now, some people think that this is going to mean we're going to get he's going to write a sequel manga or something that's going to deal with, but it would make no sense. Who knows what they're planning? All I know is,
bring it on.
Bring it on. Yeah, exactly. Bring it on. So, I'm going to say this was an amazing chapter.
Yeah. I would also say it was a really good chapter. I have two things to say. I think two things. One is for until the manga ends, I'm going to be doing live reactions, and and if you want to do them too, we'll show them on the podcast, because I think we could have some pretty interesting live reactions.
Excuse me, you do realize that as the internet community, get them on Thursday. We don't record them until the following Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
You realize how tempting that's going to be?
No. Record them separately when you actually read them.
Oh.
Yeah, like on Thursday morning, I'm gonna wake up, turn on my camera, and say, "All right, live reaction. Let's fucking go."
What, we're going to actually put our faces up on the internet?
Well, if you don't want to, we could just do the audio only. No big deal. I might do my. I'll see if my face doesn't looks very like normal, which is stoic. I'll just put the audio up, you know. Because like people who watch my streams.
No. I think I'll just record the audio. Because,
okay, that's cool.
The video is just, Anyway, so yes.
What the hell was the second thing? I can't. All of a sudden now I'm drawing a blank on what the second thing I was going to say about. Oh.
Well, first thing was live reactions.
Fourth data book is coming out.
Fourth data book.
Yeah. Which is I've been waiting for since 2011. So.
And what do we know? What this is going to be in this one?
I'm assuming it's going to cover from the invasion of Pain arc until the end, because the third data book was part 2's beginning up until the Itachi Pursuit arc's end.
I've never so what is it like? What is a data book?
The data book basically has entries on 1, the characters, 2, jutsu, 3, other things, like some other miscellaneous things, some like omake things where like they have some like questions and answers, and of course I already showed you the databook stats. Those are always in them. So we're gonna have updated databook stats, and of course everyone on Manga Fox has been, of course, discussing what the updated stats are gonna. They're predicting what the updated stats are gonna look like.
What do you mean updated stats? Like, I don't remember you showing me anything about stats.
Like on the Naruto wiki. I thought I showed you a couple weeks ago when we were talking about how Tsunade's, according to Kishimoto's databook stats, is actually quite slow compared to the likes of like Jiraiya, and where I was talking about 3.5 and 4.5. It was a couple chapters ago, but
anyway, so
yeah.
Anyway, so
be on the lookout for that fourth databook. Can't wait until it's translated. I want to see that shit.
Now this brings up another interesting point that actually at first I was thinking that probably might have talked about it in the Naruto anime section, but I think it's more important to talk about it now, and that is, what are they going to do when it comes to this movie? Because it's also said it's supposed to be released in theaters.
Right.
Now, if this is a canon movie as it's being advertised, and it's supposed to answer questions that are presumed to not be answered by the end of the manga, what the hell? Because, as we know, movies that come out in Japan, anime movies that come out in Japan in theaters, since most of them do come out in theaters, it takes several months for them to get English subbed.
Yeah, it depends
usually
on the
good.
Movie. Yeah.
Depends on the movie, but it's usually like if you want a good quality sub link or sub translations, you have to wait a couple of months.
Yeah.
They can't do that. Wait that long because there's too many. Like, this movie is too important. I mean, I'm not saying they have to bring the movie to all the theaters across the world and friggin' have a worldwide release of the movie. No. In theaters. No. They need to, in the same week, at least, release good quality translations for the various subs that are needed across the world. Because no sooner that people see that movie in Japan, that all that information is going to get on the internet.
Yep.
And then eventually it'll only take a matter of like a month or less for people to translate that information, even less for people to translate that information, and we find out everything that we're going to learn in the movie.
Right.
So, I mean, at most, I would say it would take maybe at longest. It depends. Now, depending on how long after the release of the movie before the information gets on the Japanese websites, will determine how long after the release of the movie we'll get this information in our language. Most likely, I would say a week at the latest is probably when the information we'll get the information, all the information about the movie, about what happens, and everything that we're going to learn in the movie about the story. So I feel like within like a couple of days after it comes out in theaters, they should release the movie on the internet with English subs for other countries, not Japan, but like for other countries.
Even if it's a rush job, I would rather watch a rush job and then get a better picture later on, just to see the fucking film with some semblance of English subs.
We can see the film, so we can learn about the movie, about everything because the events of the movie are canon to the series, and so all the information of this movie is going to be pertained to the series as a whole.
I know.
So we need to know this information.
I know.
So, and it's coming out. The movie's coming out about a month after the series ends. Mm-hmm. So we need to know this, and it would be ridiculously stupid of them if they don't officially release it on the internet for the other countries to view, and then people have to scrounge around for, for a copy of it so they can try and translate it and put up the various subs, and then taking almost 6 to 8 months for the official subs to come out.
Yeah, I think
because then by then everybody's going to already know everything that we're going to learn.
Yeah, I think Viz Media would be making a mistake if they didn't take the film pre-release and honestly, the film at this point is probably done. Yeah, it is. It should be done.
It has to be done at this point. So I think Viz Media at some point this month should get it and then start translating it. So that way, maybe like on the December 6th when it comes out in theaters, or maybe like a day or two after that, they release it on their site. Freaking, I don't care. If I have to spend $5 or something, like they say, $5, like to watch it, I would spend the $5.
Same.
Or whatever. Because obviously, like if they say, you gotta, in order to watch it, you have to pay like a rental fee of like $2 or like $3, $4, $5, whatever, $5, whatever it is. I would pay that because this movie is too important.
Yeah.
Now, more likely, they're probably gonna, do it for free, but it's too important not to get the subs out across all countries.
Yeah.
Within a day or two of the release in Japan.
Yeah, Viz would be making a lot of money off this because...
they can make even if they charge, like, say, $1 or $2 for, people to watch the movie, like, as a rental fee or something, that would still, that would mean... they would make a ton of money off of it. Because people want to see this movie because they want to know what important series-changing information we're going to learn. Or should I say, information that is going to help complete the story.
Right. Yeah, they would make a lot of money off this because they'd have like a good translated version of it for people to see, and then, even if it was like a rental for $2, like that would be definitely fair, or €1 or something like that, and they would make a good initial profit off that. Then they get an English version that they make money off of.
Oh, yeah.
It's a double whammy.
Well, this year they're supposed to be releasing, Road to Ninja, English dub.
Yeah.
I think this fall, I think November.
But I mean, you make a double whammy with the
last. Oh, yeah, because then your people are going to will definitely be willing to spend money to see the movie, a good quality sub in their language, in their language, especially well in English sub, because a lot of the countries that are, or at least a lot of the prominent countries
Uh huh.
outside of Japan that are fans of the series usually speak English
Yeah.
as a second language. So it wouldn't be too. So releasing an English an official, proper English subtitled version of the movie, even at like $2 or $3 or €1 or €2 or whatever the case may be, they will make a lot of money. And
Yeah.
then when they make, like I said, like you said, a year, from now, from the release, when they, decide, oh, we're gonna make officially English dub it, they're gonna make even more money because then people are gonna buy it
Yeah.
instead
You
of just
just made
renting.
two waves of money off the same film. Like that's brilliant marketing right there.
Well, it's the same thing as, with all films. You get the initial rush of people buying it or the tickets to see it in theaters, and then you have the second wave of money that comes in when people spend the money to buy it.
Right.
Hell, friggin' if I have, it's just they would be utter fools. That's that's honestly all I have to say. That's literally the only thing you can really say is that they would be everybody involved in this process would be fools if they didn't do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's I'm gonna end it right there.
Yeah. I think we should end it there. All right, guys. So this week I'm gonna start with Akame Ga Kiru, chapter 53, because that came out this week. So main point of this chapter was mine going to save Tatsumi from being executed, and we see that Najenda especially thinks that Pumpkin is the key to doing this, and we start to see why. Although, even though we kind of understand why beforehand, because mine is the one whose soul um, is the sole charger into this fight, where Estes and Budo are both there, both generals are there, ready to stop her, and Budo launches an attack, but yet um, Mine's Pumpkin, because she's in such a pinch, obviously, because she's going up against two generals. Like that's the greatest pinch she's ever been in. So it's the power is off the charts and is able to overpower Budo's attack and um, do something to him. We don't know what's happened to him yet. There's no way he's dead. I'm calling absolute BS if he's dead from that. And now it's going to be Estes versus mine, and we see that she figures out that mine is Tatsumi's girlfriend, and she's not very subtle about it. She's very forthright about it, and now we see her eye like kind of react to it, and we see her face kind of get very angry, and so Estes definitely wants to kill mine, and the more I think about it, mine is fucked. At first, I was like, okay, Pumpkin is OP because she's going up against somebody so powerful. But every Tegu has an upper limit. At least I'm assuming that every Tegu has an upper limit. And so there's only so much that Pumpkin can do before it reaches that limit where it can no longer get stronger in a bind or a pinch, as they always say. Um, and I don't think mine's Pumpkin is going to be able to be strong enough to kill Estes or Budo, or even really significantly wound them. I think Budo is absolutely fine. They're just not showing him for dramatic purposes because the beef here is between mine and Estes, major what do you want to say it? Uh, the majority of the beef, I guess you'd say, is between mine and Estes. So that's basically the chapter in a nutshell. Uh, Tatsumi is like, "Oh, you're amazing, mine. God don't even deserve you." That kind of bullshit in his head, and to that I say, "Okay, fine. Uh, be go with Estes. You should be with Estes instead." But then we come. Okay, there was one other point I want to touch on is that Budo and is kind of voicing his dissent for some of the capitals, like some of the capital their decisions and their kind of ethics, especially the minister, like specifically the minister, um, the guy who's been manipulating the whatever monarch and that little kid is. I can't remember. I'm sorry. And then he was the father of Shura, that guy. So Estes says, when that happens, you'll be my enemy. But I think this is misdirection because I don't see if there is a Budo versus Estes fight, I think it's going to be the opposite. I think it's going to be Estes working against the capital instead of Budo because Budo is not a threat to the capital right now. He might be a threat to the minister, but not to the capital. Estes is absolutely a threat to the capital. Granted, realistically, she's not. However, when it comes to somebody like her, somebody who loves torture, things like that, one could definitely make an argument that she's not exactly sane. And so the capital may at some point consider her unstable and unreliable, and they may actually turn on Estes and try to kill her. This is something that I've seen. I'm calling it now that this is definitely a high possibility that Estes will not be working for the capital the entire time. She's either going to die by Night Raid's hands, survive, or she's going to turn on the capital because they turn on her, and then at that point, she will be pretty pretty helpful for Night Raid. She may not join Night Raid directly, but I think we might see her as an anti-hero type of character, where she not exactly with the Revolutionary Army, but she's not exactly with Capital either because she's fighting everybody, but ultimately is going to do more good than harm by the end. This is my prediction. It doesn't hold too much weight to it at this point. It's a theory at best, but I do think the possibility exists, and it's actually honestly high in my opinion. So anyway, I thought it was a decent chapter. Oh yeah, and mine finds about Robik being dead, so that's it. She just reacts to it, but I thought it was a decent chapter, especially after the bullshit with Robik dying. You guys already know I hated that, and so yeah. Now we're gonna move on to Bleach. Now Bleach this week, people are complaining again about the Royal Guard, and I just can't. I can't agree. And so we see the death dealing. This guy, I think his name is Askin. He is showing off his power, which is unique. I like it in that it's all about lethal dosage of blood or of anything really, and so he can kind of manipulate the lethal dosage of blood. How he activates it, I'm guessing that he was able to get his hands on Oetsu somehow. Um, that's my guess. It has to be some sort of touch. Maybe um, if Oetsu touches his blood, it's similar to the zombie girl where she got her blood on people, she could control them. I think it's the same way. That's I think a high probability at this point. And so we see Oetsu having problems, and then his countermeasure is simply to cut himself, and lower his blood below the lethal dosage. However, um, as I predicted, I'm sure everybody else predicted during this chapter, you can't just do that because there's also a lower limit of how much blood you can lose. You can't. You have to still keep a certain amount of blood in your body in order to survive, and so it's really a double-edged sword because what you have to do is keep your blood in between that. But it's difficult because asking knows is has good eyes and can really kind of manipulate your blood to where it's almost impossible to survive. And so his ability actually is quite overpowered if we think about it. I mean, if he was able to alter anybody's blood, if if Tenjiro and his method did not and his Zanpakuto did not exist, this would be easily top five most overpowered abilities. The Royal Guard would be fucked, especially Oetsu. But because Tenjiro's ability is all about getting rid of bad blood and renewing good blood into you, that really saved him. Because like I said, otherwise this would be such an overpowered ability where if he can do it quite easily, then you're pretty much fucked. You would have to if you had intel on it, I'm sure somebody like Byakuya could do something like Rikujo Koro, and then decapitate him, and then that's it. But otherwise, whatever. But yeah, so Tenjiro is able to, help him out, and then Oetsu lands another strike to him, and then he says that's a lethal dose, or that's lethal rather, in certain translations. And now some people were complaining, especially King of Lightning. I don't usually reference him that often, but he was saying about how he should be able to alter that. And to that I say two things. One, the lower limit that I mentioned before, he's lost tons of blood before, and so I'm assuming that perhaps he lost just too much blood in this fight. And two, he probably cannot alter his own blood, his blood lethal dosage if he cannot react to the attack, basically. So, in my opinion, what seemed to be the case was when Oetsu was going after everybody, he knew that he was going to be next the first time, and so he lowered his lethal dosage before getting hit. But then after Tenjiro helped him, he could not react quick enough to Oetsu's Nemia's speed blitz, and so he could not alter his own lethal dosage in time. By the time he got hit, it was already lethal, considered lethal, and so he probably cannot lower that once something's been considered lethal. So that's the chapter really, and now apparently it's Yuha Bak's turn, but I'm assuming Hashvald is going to get involved. Maybe Uryu, who knows? I thought it was a good chapter. Again, I don't agree with the complaints about the Squad Zero Royal Guard. I think they're awesome, and I don't agree that they should be whacking these people off. I think it's great that they're whacking them off like this. Good. These guys were hyped to be stronger than the entirety of the Soul Society. I'm sure I mentioned this before. And most likely they're almost as strong as Yamamoto individually. Maybe stronger. Who knows? Maybe Ocho, isn't that what his name is? Uh, Osho, the guy, the bald head guy who helped Renji and Rukia train in the process of rejuvenating the the crew. And so I think he's probably the strongest, and he probably even stronger than Yamamoto. So I mean, Yamamoto is ridiculous. There's no way. If you think about it this way, Yamamoto could probably destroy the Miracle, could probably destroy the Sniper, could destroy fucking asking, he would burn his ass up. It's not even close. So when you put it that way, it really doesn't seem like a big deal that Oetsu was able to completely wreck these people. That and he's these guys are placed on a similar respect level to Yamamoto or better. You just don't even know. There was no he didn't show a Bankai, nothing. You just don't fucking know. So at this point, it's like I just can't agree with it. I can't. I know you guys like the Stern Rider. I like him too. I like some of the Stern Rider too. But I like the Royal Guard better. I think they're good. They're very interesting characters. So I think this is a good chapter. And so finally we have Shokugeki no Soma. I believe we're on 92, right? Or whatever it is. Yeah, 91 actually, because 92, although 92 came out this week, I'm saving that chapter for next week because of the fact that Shokugeki no Soma's release schedule is very, very kind of, I would say, temperamental because it's kind of a more obscure manga and is not like dealt with on the same, I would say, the same attention level as Big Three or even Toriko or Akame Ga Kiru or Shingeki no Kyojin or anything like that. But um, so this chapter was all about hyping up Hayama, and we see that his duck turned out pretty awesome, as all according to Keikaku, right? And so essentially, with Hayama, his nose was able to like clearly discern everything that needed to be discerned about like when everything was done, everything was cooked perfectly. And when we see the judges, they're all they're all of course flabbergasted at Hayama, and of course we have more poses from Hayama. One that's very very similar to JoJo's Caesar pose, I would say, in part two. I'm telling you, this guy is like JoJo level posing or just below it. So Hayama finishes first, and we see like everybody is like cheering on Hayama because they think he's going to win. However, we see that Kurokiba is focused solely on cooking the dish perfectly, and we see that he's making an eel matalote, whatever that is. I mean, I know Erina explains it, but whatever. And then we see like they compare this to like a card game type of match, where types of comparisons where um, we had Yuki lands, whatever, and then in Crow or in Hayama, it was like a battle of like gigantic beasts. And then we see this interesting panel where a huge bird like have his talons around Kurokiba, and it looks awesome. And then we see Hayama smile very devilishly, and then he has all these spices and Taki, who I previously called the attitude and tsundere chick. I call her Taki now. I think I got her name down pat. She's saying that if you don't, no matter how many cards you have, it's meaningless if you can't use them properly. And she stops herself while she says properly because she sees that Hayama finished and she sees what it looks like, the Canard Apicus, whatever. And so they get to taste the dish and they're obviously blown away. We see Hinako and the other girl, and they're in this like duck suit, and it looks great. Let's be honest. The author is very good at drawing women, in my opinion, and it looks awesome. And it's kind of funny too. She's like crying and like the fuck. And of course, we see the big boob chick and Taki being grabbed by the Talon again, and they're naked, obviously. Called it Eagle Grip. It looks great, of course, and then we see like Hayama's cards start to beat the crap out of Kurokiba and his cards. And then we see another pose with him with his fucking cards. And then lastly, we end off where Kurokiba shows some life. And that's the chapter. So this chapter was all about hyping up Hayama, and it seems clear that Kurokiba's not done. And so when we see the outcome, because I'm just telling you now, 92, the outcome is in 92. It's kind of surprising, but kind of not at the same time. So that's it for the manga section of this week. I thought it was a good chapter for Shokugeki no Souma.